downward spiral of poverty last year by the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, the capacity for dealing with COVID-19 among refugees in rural areas was very limited. The UNHCR is seeking $455 million to tackle the additional problems posed in protecting refugees from the effects of the pandemic.
The struggle is for the vaccines. So there is now the inclusion of vaccines, as Marion explained, that is absolutely essential that we get this going. Now, 106 countries have shown in their plans that they are going to include refugees, asylum seekers, and the others in their plans. But then we also want to see that when global equity is there, that the vaccines reach these low-income countries, middle-income countries, absolutely essential that when it reaches the countries that refugee populations are also included in vaccines. Now we are looking at resources this year again. There is our regular appeal, but there's also a supplementary appeal that we have floated. And there we are looking at further
455 million.
450. Thanks, Andrew. So those as to look at further introducing preventions. If there's further spread, that we are able to contain that. Education is important. Livelihoods is important, and we make sure that these refugees continue to enjoy at least the basic rights that are there for them, which is important that they are supported in that.
According to UNHCR's latest statistics, there are around 80 million forcibly displaced people worldwide. These include 45.7 million internally displaced people, 26.3 million refugees, and 4.2 million asylum seekers. Malik said despite early fears that refugee camps would prove ideal breeding grounds for the virus, the situation for refugees tends to mirror that of their host communities. Meanwhile, the director of the World Health Organization's Europe branch, Hans Klug, tells a press conference that the coronavirus is currently claiming more lives than 1 year ago when the pandemic started.
The number of people dying from COVID-19 in Europe is higher now than it was this time last year, reflecting the widespread hold this virus has. Last week, new deaths in the region surpassed 900,000. Every week, more than 20,000 people across the region lose their lives to the virus.
He reiterates the WHO's calls for countries to continue administering the AstraZeneca vaccine, while claims that it has caused blood clots in some patients are investigated.
We are yet to see the widespread health impact and benefits of vaccines, which I can assure you will come. But for now, we need to remain steadfast in our application of the full range of tools to respond. WHO is assessing the latest safety data, and once completed, the findings will be made public. At this point in time, however, the benefits of the AstraZeneca vaccine far outweigh its risk, and its use should continue to save lives. As of now, we do not know whether some or all of the conditions have been caused by the vaccine or by other coincidental factors.
The World Health Organization says it is particularly worried about the COVID-19 situation in the Balkans and Central Europe, noting that hospitalizations and deaths were among the highest in the world. Take a look.
We were particularly worried about the epidemiologic situation in the Balkans, as well as many other countries around Central Europe. And just as the regional director said, early introduction of vaccine, and even with rates that are higher than most of the other countries in the WHO Europe region, Serbia is still seeing a very significant increase in transmission. So early status of vaccination does not necessarily vaccinate you against very poor epidemiologic trends. And that's because we're first vaccinating those people in those higher risk age groups. Those are not the people that are driving transmission.
In Washington, President Joe Biden said Thursday his goal of getting 100 million vaccine doses administered in his first 100 days in office will be met on Friday, far in advance of the original target. Take a look.
And I'm proud to announce that tomorrow, 58 days into our administration, we will have met my goal of administering 100 million shots to our fellow Americans.
President Biden initially said he wanted 100 million doses administered within 100 days, but that target will have been reached in less than 60. The White House has announced its plans to lend 4 million AstraZeneca vaccines to Canada and Mexico. In Alberta, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness with the details.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki confirmed those numbers today. 1.5 million doses will be sent to Canada. 2.5 million will go to Mexico. While getting Americans immunized as soon as possible remains the country's #1 goal, Psaki says the U.S. cannot ignore the rest of the world.
Our first priority remains vaccinating the U.S. population. The reality is the border knows no, pandemic knows no borders, and ensuring our neighbors can contain the virus is a mission-critical to ending the pandemic.
Psaki says there are about 7 million doses waiting to be injected into people's arms, but they cannot yet be used on Americans. So rather than leaving them sit in the warehouse, they'll be sent to other parts of the world.
As we await FDA approval here in the U.S., many countries, as you know, have already requested, have already approved AstraZeneca and also have requested our doses from the United States. That includes Canada and Mexico, but is certainly not limited to Canada and Mexico.
Under the deal being worked out, the doses are not being sold, they're being loaned, and countries will have to repay that loan.
It could be for future AstraZeneca doses or other doses.
Reaction to the deal has been swift. Doug Ford, the Premier of Canada's largest province, which is on the verge of a third wave of the pandemic, well, Ford is elated.
God bless America. They're coming to our rescue. Thank God. I've been bugging Trump, I've been bugging Biden, all of them. They must get sick of Doug Ford asking for help.
Vaccine shortages in Canada have forced the government to extend the time between the first and second doses from 3 to 4 weeks to 3 to 4 months. So any extra inventory is welcome. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Thomas, for that report and clarifying that while the pandemic knows no borders, neither does help from neighbors. Now for today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University and Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Thursday, March 18, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now over 121,575,000. Top 3 on the list of countries with recorded cases are the U.S. with over 29.6 million, Brazil with over 11.6 million, and India with over 11.4 million. To date, more than 2,685,000 have succumbed to this virus. The U.S. leads the countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths with over 538,000. Brazil is next with more than 284,000, and Mexico has more than 195,000. When we come back, updates from Washington and California. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Baso-Yahe in Los Angeles. The District of Columbia introduces a new pre-registration system for its COVID vaccination appointments. In Washington, Eliza Gonzalez-Manlikmot is with us tonight with the details.
Thank you, Alan. Good Thursday evening to you and a wonderful Friday morning to our friends on the other side of the globe. Now, looking after one another. That's what DC Mayor Muriel Bowser's message is as she calls on Washingtonians to help their friends, family, and neighbors pre-register for a vaccination appointment, either by going to vaccinatedc.gov or by calling the call center. Now, there's a new system launched last week, and more than 13,000 individuals have already pre-registered. They have already received an invitation, and these 13,000 also have booked an appointment. Now, to date, approximately 134,500 have pre-registered for and are awaiting a vaccination appointment. At this time, all district residents and workers not yet vaccinated are encouraged to pre-register regardless of the current vaccination eligibility. With the new pre-registration system, individuals can register online at any time on any day via vaccinate.dc.gov or by phone through the call center. Schedules are from Mondays through Fridays from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturdays and Sundays from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. There are language translation services available through the call center. And call center staff are also able to take calls from 711. What is 711? It is a free video relay service from the FCC, allowing individuals to sign with a hearing interpreter who is then talking on the phone with a call taker. Now, as of today, eligible individuals include DC residents 65 and older, DC residents 18 to 64 with a qualifying medical condition, and members of an eligible workforce. This week, DC Health expanded eligibility to include all essential workers in Phase 1B Tier 3 and Phase 1C Tier 1 working in person. These include teachers, childcare workers, and school staff, eligible regardless of whether they are currently working in person. Now, the second group, in-person workers who became eligible this week include staff working in courts and individuals providing legal services, frontline employees of public transit, employees of the U.S. Postal Service, staff working in food service, essential employees in local government agencies, essential employees of public utilities, essential employees in health, human and social services organizations or agencies who were not vaccinated as outreach workers. Now, individuals working in commercial and residential property maintenance and environmental services are also included in this group. Now, for some weather update, it is 53 degrees Fahrenheit or 12 degrees Celsius in the nation's capital. In Washington, Eliza Gonzalez-Manlikmot, Eagle News, will live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Eliza, would you mind kindly explaining further this new vaccination appointment system in D.C.?
Yes, Alan. As we've mentioned, this new pre-registration system is open to all residents and workers in the district regardless of current vaccination eligibility. Now, an individual who registers by 11:59 p.m. on the set pre-registration days, and these days are Wednesdays and Saturdays, and who is currently eligible for the vaccine in DC will be part of the randomized selection process the next morning. Those are Thursdays and Sundays. Now, once invitations go out, individuals have 48 hours, 2 days to book their appointments. However, if an individual fails to book the appointment, their names will go back in the pre-registration system. Now, after 3 unanswered invitations, an individual will need to register in the system again. Now, eligible individuals are selected through a process that randomizes those who have pre-registered. And this is according to a breakdown set by the district. 20% are DC residents in priority zip code 65 and older, 20% DC residents in any zip code 65 and older, 20%, that's 60 now, DC residents in priority zip codes 18 to 64, but with a qualifying medical condition, and then another 20% for DC residents in any zip code 18 to 64 with a qualifying medical condition. Now, 10% goes to DC residents in priority zip codes who are members of an eligible workforce, and they should be 18 and older. And the last 10% goes to members of an eligible workforce, 18 and older, regardless of home address, as long as they are working in the district. Alan?
Eliza, let's talk about the screening process, or if there is one. Let's say an individual is able to pre-register using the system, but they don't actually belong to one of these eligible groups. What's the reason then that they can pre-register, and what's the principle behind this new pre-registration system?
Very good question, Alan. That was my question too earlier when I was reviewing the release. Well, according to Mayor Bowser, the principles behind this pre-registration system, this new pre-registration system, is to provide an equitable distribution of the vaccine, as was mentioned with the randomized selection process, and a consistent scheduling cadence so residents know what to expect. And third, for those who are not yet, who do not yet belong to the eligible group, they pre-register so that we get people in the district pre-registered. So once vaccination eligibility expands further, their names are already in the system. Alan?
Thanks, Eliza. Could you also elaborate a little bit more on the DC vaccine doses stats for this week?
According to DC.gov, Alan, DC is receiving this week 24,068 doses of vaccine. Now, 13,630 of those are allotted for vaccinate.dc.gov, 7,735 are allotted for hospitals and health centers, and the other 2,703 are for special initiatives. Alan?
Lots of statistics to stay on top of, but we sure appreciate you doing that job. Thank you, Eliza.
Thank you.
The Disney amusement parks in California are set to reopen their doors to the public with limited capacity by the end of April. In North Hills, Eagle News correspondent Mylene Cuscio with the details.
Thank you, Alan. Having its gates closed to the public for more than 1 year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Disneyland and Disney California Adventure Park will reopen to Disney lovers with limited capacity on April 30. With significant rapid decrease of confirmed COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations seen throughout Southern California, many areas such as Los Angeles, Ventura, and Orange County have moved to the red tier and loosened their coronavirus restrictions, allowing for outdoor activities to resume and more businesses to reopen their doors, including the reopening of amusement parks like Disneyland and California Adventure. With Disney friends being welcomed back on Main Street, they will not only be able to devour the well-known Disney food and drinks and purchase the newest merchandise, but they will also be able to ride again their favorite ride attractions at Disneyland and California Adventure Park, including Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, Peter Pan's Flight, Master's Junkyard Jamboree, Incredicoaster, and the newest attraction, Snow White's Enchanted Wish. The announcement of the Disneyland Resort and theme park being open again to the public not only brings happiness to Disney goers, but also to many cast members that were impacted by the layoffs in 2020. According to Ken Potrock, president of Disneyland Resort, the day all of us have been waiting for is almost here. We're excited to have more than 10,000 cast members returning to work as we are ready to welcome our guests back to this happy place. In North Hills, California, Mylene Cusiao, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Right, I think I've already gained weight just imagining the return of those Disney turkey legs. Now, Mylene, you have your young children, okay? We're wondering, have they heard the news about amusement parks reopening? And if so, has there been any pressure from them to go for a visit?
Yeah, they have heard the news. They are happy. But right now, not too much pressure because we were fortunately, we were able to visit back in summer 2019. So that's still kind of fresh in their memory. And but they are excited to go to the California Adventure Park because they haven't been to that one. So I'm hearing some murmuring from my son that he wants to go there. And also, we also want to go to another theme park closer to our home, which is Universal Studios. And they both haven't been there. So they're really looking forward to going to that park as well. Back to you, Alan.
Well, Mylene, we know that Disneyland has the slogan or the title of happiest place on earth. Can you talk about that? What makes Disneyland for you the happiest place on earth, and also for your children?
Well, for me, I don't have to worry about my kids being bored, except when we're in line because, such long lines. But I feel safe when we're there. My kids feel safe when they're there. They feel like nothing's going to happen to them, but little do they know. But yeah, it's the happiest place because their imagination kind of comes to reality, when they see all these different animations come into life, and you see the joy in their eyes when they see these things before them, and then they see the characters are moving, they're alive, they're right in front of them, and that gets them pretty excited as well. And for me too, it kind of brings the child in me back, like when I'm watching the Main Street Parade. The costumes are so beautiful, and just the music, it's so loud, and it's just you're right there enjoying the moment. And then of course at night we love the fireworks. No matter how tired we are, it's such an amazing sight to watch. Back to you, Alan.
Well, nothing wrong with spending quality time with family, even if you're waiting in line. Thanks, Mylene, for the report.
You're welcome.
Up next, another report from California, plus updates from Nevada and New Jersey. Eagle News America will return shortly.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Agila Pilipinas, a 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Agila Probinsya. Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International
On
delivers the
tonight's
latest
headlines.
global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to thank our help outdoor track.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basoyahe in Los Angeles. As COVID infection rate drops, Los Angeles County is slowly reopening several of its sectors. These include indoor dining, theaters, and in-person learning. In Glendale, Annabelle de Mesa joins us tonight.
Thank you, Alan. Los Angeles continues to decrease in their county's metric thresholds. According to the recent statistics given by the state of California this week, they've dropped from 5.2 new cases per 100,000 population to 4.1 new cases per 100,000 population. Los Angeles County has also recently moved from the most restrictive purple tier to the less restrictive red tier of California's Blueprint Recovery Map, leading to the reopening of various sectors and businesses last Monday. Angelinos are now able to dine inside their favorite restaurants again, as well as watch movies in theaters and learn in middle school and high school classrooms. The release of the county's updated COVID-19 case, according to the state, shows that Los Angeles is on the right track to recovering from this pandemic. They're on their way to meeting the state guidelines to reach orange tier restrictions, the third of the four-tiered system in the state's blueprint for a safer economy. To reach this orange tier, Los Angeles needs to be in the red tier for 3 consecutive weeks, have a test positivity rate of 4.9% or lower for 2 consecutive weeks, and reach a daily case rate of 3.9 new cases per 100,000 people or lower. Barbara Ferrer, Public Health Director, states, Los Angeles County continues to make significant progress, slowing transmission. Should our case numbers continue to decline, our recovery journey could land us in the less restrictive orange tier in April. This is only possible if we all do our part to keep each other safe. I believe that as more people are vaccinated and as we continue to follow public health safety measures, we can continue to reopenings without threatening each other's health. In Glendale, California, Annabelle de Mesa, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Annabelle, we could almost smell that popcorn popping just from watching those clips. But I want to ask you, what are you personally looking forward to more, the return of indoor dining or going back to movie theaters?
Strangely enough, I'm looking forward to going back to the movie theaters. Not only am I super excited to finally see the big action and horror movies in the large screen, I'm also weirdly missing the popcorn and the big bottles of soda, just the experience, the movie-going experience. Like, I know I've heard the stories of, the lack of freshness and other the salt content and all that stuff, but I feel like that's just what makes it more delicious, like it's more of a guilty pleasure. Like, it's bad for you, but it's not the same eating it anywhere else.
I understand, Annabelle. I do miss a sticky cup holder and stepping on chewing gum. But now, talking about the pandemic, we were all just kept in. We had to stay home. A lot of us had to stay home. Even though a lot of people are looking forward to returning to normalcy, there were some effects that were actually beneficial. Less traffic, a healthier ozone layer. What are some of the things that you might miss from the quarantine?
One thing I'll definitely miss is the lack of cars on the road. Living in LA, I'm sure you know that traffic here is insane. And you know that the economy is slowly getting back on track and, we're slowly improving on the pandemic because there are more cars on the road and more accidents and longer traffic and travel times. But it's a small cost to pay compared to what we're finally getting out of the quarantines, getting out of the pandemic. So it's not something, the quarantines aren't exactly something I wish would be prolonged, but if there's any silver lining to that trying time, it's at least we were able to get to our destinations much faster.
Right, in Los Angeles, when it comes to traffic, wherever you drive in Los Angeles, you're basically already late. Annabelle, thanks so much for that report.
Thank you, Alan.
Now, the state of Nevada is nearing its goal when it comes to COVID positivity rate. Plus, Governor Sisolak announces expansion of the state's vaccination eligibility. In Las Vegas, Nevada, Anna Cui has this report.
Thank you, Alan. Yes, so when we talk about the goal, 5% for COVID-19 test positivity rate is the goal set by the World Health Organization for every state to have. And according to the state's dashboard, it is down to 5.2% as of Wednesday. So it's really close, Alan. And we're also seeing number of cases continue on the decline. According to officials from the Nevada COVID-19 Mitigation and Management Task Force during a recent meeting, the state's fight against the virus is good, but they also expressed concerns, with reopening too much too soon. The task force finished a third of 3 meetings with counties Thursday, discussing the state's roadmap to recovery plan, because they're preparing to transition the day-to-day management of COVID-19 to local authorities on May 1, as it was announced by Governor Sisolak last week. The task force officials continue to encourage every county to have reopening plans that they can confidently, implement and support for keeping COVID-19 under control. The worst thing, Alan, for any state is to go backwards. So that's the last thing that they want to see here in Nevada. The messaging they want to continue to come across for every community, every county, is that the pandemic is not over, and everyone needs to continue following the safety measures, and more importantly, to get vaccinated when they become eligible. The improvements in the state's COVID statistics were repeatedly credited to Nevada's increasing vaccination rates. And, for locally here in Clark County, in the meeting today that I listened to from the task force, one of the requests from the Clark County representative is to have an increase in vaccine supply. That way they can reach the goal, specifically for Clark County where Las Vegas sits. They want to reach the goal to vaccinate 1.2 million in Las Vegas, which will account for 60% of the population. So meanwhile, Governor Steve Sisolak announced on Wednesday during a press conference that all Nevadans age 16 and older will be eligible to get the vaccine starting April 5. And those in that age group with pre-existing conditions, including cancer, diabetes, and lung diseases, just to name a few, will actually be able to get it even sooner, beginning March 22. The governor's announcement comes less than a week after President Joe Biden announced that he planned to direct all states to make all adults eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine by May 1. Still, Governor Sisolak cautioned that even as vaccine eligibility expands, not everyone who wants the vaccine will immediately be able to get it, just like President Joe Biden had announced, because, again, with the fixed supply the state receives each week. So Nevadans will continue to remain patient. In addition, out of the 3 vaccines available here in the state of Nevada, only the Pfizer is approved for use for those 16 years and older. Moderna and Janssen vaccines are authorized for use only in those 18 years and older at this time. In Las Vegas, Anna Cui, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Thanks, Anna. Now, you mentioned the positivity rate is just over 5%. How does the rest of the stats look like there in Vegas?
Yes, so for the whole state of Nevada, it is at 5.2. For Clark County, again, where Las Vegas is located, our test positivity rate here is at 5.4%. So still, fairly good. The county is still flagged for having a number of cases above 200 per 100,000. Currently, it's at 260. So the goal is to be below 200. And that's why, there's a concern that we don't want to loosen up too soon, especially last week. Actually, as of Monday, the capacity for large gathering was increased to 50%. So, there's a lot of concern with that, especially opening up sports and entertainment. And according to Terry Reynolds from the Department of Business and Industry, they've already approved 600 of those plan requests to have those large gathering activities. Alan?
Now, like every other city, more doses would certainly help. But besides the challenge of not having enough of the vaccine supply, what other challenges is Las Vegas having?
Yeah, so when it comes to vaccination, there continues to be certain communities where they're seeing still high number of cases, but at the same time, low vaccination rate. So the state officials, the local officials here, have identified 3 zip codes actually that belong in the North Las Vegas area where that situation is like that. So they've partnered, the city of North Las Vegas actually partnered with the College of Southern Nevada to set up vaccination sites, specifically targeting, within this under-vaccinated communities. In addition to that, they've set up registration at local grocery stores. They're doing phone outreaches as well as sending out emails to these communities, specifically the Hispanic communities. They're sending out those communication to encourage them to get vaccinated. Alan?
It looks like some detailed strategic planning happening there in Las Vegas. Thank you, Anna, for that report.
Thank you, Alan.
We now turn to a tragic story from Carteret, New Jersey, involving the death of a 3-year-old boy in a dog attack. In Union Township, Bureau Chief Carlo Valdez files this report.
Thanks, Alan. A very sad story in Carteret, New Jersey, where 2 dogs attacked a mother and her son. The mother's 3-year-old son was killed during the attack and the mother was severely injured. The 2 dogs lived directly behind the mother and son. The 2 dogs were able to go under the fence, and that is when the attack had happened. The community now is raising money to help them and their family. Both dogs who attacked were euthanized following the incident. And as for coronavirus stats and numbers, New Jersey reports of 3,830 new positive PCR tests, pushing the total to 754,817. Sadly, New Jersey is reporting 31 new confirmed deaths, pushing the total to 21,561 lives lost. In Union Township, New Jersey, Carlo Valdez, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Thank you, Carlo. Up next, updates from Arkansas, Florida. Plus, tonight's roundtable about Awkward Moments Day.
Susunod sa Kesaya-saya!
It's cooking time! Kainan sa Barangay Aguila!
Kaya naman naghahanap ako ng mga representative natin dito para isali ko siya sa Inter-Barangay Coco. Good morning, kato. Gozaimasu. Hoy!
Isa pa!
Ang nanalo sa projeko ay walang iba kundi si...
Sumaya tayong lahat. Kesaya-saya! Tuwing linggo, alas 6:30 ng gabi, dito lang sa Net 25. Kap, halika. Kap, teka. Uy, tubig! Kap, tubig!
Bakit di pagbigyan? Magpaalam sa pusong nasasaktan. Hanggang kailan maglululok sa puso.
Nga pala si Ron Macapagal at abangan niyo po ako bilang guest performer sa #Letters and Music ngayong darating na linggo, 1 to 2 p.m. Siyempre, dito lamang sa Net 25. See you po!
Nagsasawa na ang panyo sa pasalo ng luhang ko. Hindi ba na
This is Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basoyahe in Los Angeles. Several stories from Arkansas tonight. Eagle News correspondent Don Omar Cuevas reports.
Hello again. This is Don Omar Cuevas reporting from Little Rock, Arkansas. This Wednesday, Arkansas experienced an intense thunderstorm, with some parts of the state fearing tornadoes approaching in the morning. During the early afternoon, the National Weather Service had even warned Arkansans of hailstorms and damaging winds. I did take a picture of my umbrella. The winds were pretty strong, to say the least. COVID-19 cases in Arkansas have now reached almost 330,000 as of this Tuesday, with just over 250,000 recoveries and about 5,500 deaths. As of the 16th of March, about 860,000 of the nearly 1.5 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine have been given to eligible Arkansans. In addition, Arkansas has now moved into Phase 1C of the vaccine distribution plan. Before Phase 1C, medical workers, long-term care workers, educational workers, and certain other essential workers were eligible for the vaccine, along with those aged 65 and older. With the initiation of Phase 1C, Arkansans aged 16 to 64 with medical conditions that increase their risk for severe COVID-19, essential workers in fields such as energy, food service, information technology, and public safety, and people residing in high-risk settings such as crowded housing, prisons, and college dorms also now have access to the COVID vaccine. According to Governor Asa Hutchinson, new cases and testing are nearly identical to last week's, and active cases are continuing to fall. He continues to encourage the people of Arkansas to get vaccinated. Recently on Twitter, Governor Hutchinson also showed his appreciation for the continued decline of the unemployment rate in Arkansas, stating that he hopes to see it decline further as COVID-19 cases also decline. In Little Rock, Arkansas, Don Omar Cuevas, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Don Omar. Make sure to send us pictures, too, of your new umbrella that you're undoubtedly going to be shopping for. Now in Florida, beaches and theme parks are at full capacity as the spring break crowd seeks a much-needed vacation. In Tampa, Abby Aragon reports.
For the first time since the pandemic has struck, Florida theme parks and beaches have reached capacity. Because of rising temperatures and spring break starting across the state, people are taking this time to unwind and have fun. Pinellas County beaches have opened back up, unlike this time last year. However, not without emphasizing that all beachgoers must follow safety precautions. This is in light of the vacationers that arrived in South Florida beaches that had to be arrested due to their blatant disregard of safety precautions. And for all the theme park enthusiasts, Walt Disney World is fully booked for the next week for all 4 of its parks, according to its website. Theme parks across the state have been at nearly full capacity due to COVID restrictions and will likely continue to reach capacity. Recently, COVID numbers have been going down throughout the state of Florida, with a weekly reported average of around 11,000 cases. Hopefully, it will continue to decrease despite the surge in activities. Abby Aragon, Tampa, Florida, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
That sight of people returning to the streets is certainly refreshing indeed. Now, for those of you who may not have known, we're talking about National Awkward Moments Day. And we have with us our team of Eagle News correspondents who probably had a difficult time trying to figure out or just narrow down 1 or 2 awkward moments that they might have suffered or maybe even learned from in their lives. So why don't we go ahead and bring them on with us right now, because we want to know. We want you to talk about your awkward moments. And let's go first to, what about Eliza? We have Eliza Gonzalez. Can you share with us, Eliza, some of these awkward moments that you experienced?
Why do you always call on me first, Alan? I noticed
you know
that.
The reason why?
Okay, this happened a few years ago. Well, among many other awkward moments that we've all experienced. Well, this one happened to me a few years ago. when we were in the Philippines. My family and we traveled to the Philippines for something. And then, so we attended this event where very distinguished individuals were present. Okay, so it was it's very quiet, and everyone was prim and proper. And then we meet this gentleman, and I walk up to him because he looked so familiar, right? I walk up to him and I tried to shake his hand, and then I call him by a different name. So, but the name of the other guy was his contemporary, and for some reason I put a different name to a very familiar face. So he looks at me with an expression of disbelief, and then to my consolation, he just goes, "Oh, good thing the other person is more good looking than I am." He goes like that, and then he we laughed a little bit, but I felt so bad because after that he turned around and he walked away, and he never talked to us again the entire day. I felt so bad, but sorry.
But Eliza, I think that happens to all of us, right? One point or another, we call somebody by a different name. We could have sworn that they were the person we were thinking of, but apparently this gentleman had a good sense of humor.
He did. I'm so thankful he did. He took it lightly, but yeah, I felt so bad because I wasn't supposed to forget his name.
So, Eliza, was there any lesson, any takeaway from this experience for you?
Yes, if you don't know the name of a person for sure, so you just say hi first, and then and then when you know for sure that he or she is that person, then it's okay to mention the name. Especially if it's at an event where you're supposed to recognize all of them.
So that's the advice from Eliza. Greet somebody, but then have those saucer-shaped eyes and wait for them to fill in the blanks. Thanks, Eliza, for that good advice. Let's go to Anna. Anna, Awkward Moments Day. What can you share with us?
Thanks, Alan. Eliza, I've run into those moments where you run into someone that you haven't seen in a while, and you're excited to see them, but for the life of you, you can't remember their name. So I can totally relate. But I have a specific awkward moment that I can't forget. My husband and I were at a department store one day. I believe it was a music store, and so we got separated. And then I turned into one aisle, and I go up to a gentleman, and I went to put my arm around him, thinking he was my husband. And then I looked up because he seemed taller, and sure enough, it was. And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I was so embarrassed, and my husband come around the corner and didn't know what was happening, and I just couldn't stop apologizing to that man. And he was nice about it. He was he just started laughing, and and I went to my husband and I said, "Oh my gosh, I thought that was you," and I took his arm. I went. So anyway, Alan, that was the most awkward moment I can remember. I can recall to this day.
I hope that was pre-COVID, Anna.
That was definitely pre-COVID, years and years ago. Yes.
For our Eagle News viewers, I can just tell you that I've had the wonderful opportunity to meet Anna Kui in person. And I think her husband would agree. For that short moment that you had your arm around that gentleman was a very lucky individual because you're an amazing person.
That's nice of you, Alan. But my husband scolded me and said, "Make sure," he goes, "you tend to do that. Make sure you're more aware of your surroundings." So I've learned to be more.
You answered my you answered my question. That was my next question: how your husband took it. But thank you, Anna, for that. Yeah, really awkward moment. But I'm glad you're still smiling. Let's go on to Annabelle. Annabelle, please talk to us. Awkward moments.
Oh boy. Okay, so this was many years ago. I had my cousins come over, and one of my baby cousins, he's 10 years younger than me. So I was 17 at the time, he was 7. And he saw one of my Yoshi dolls that I had in my bedroom, and he begged me. He's like, "Hey, can I please have this doll? It's really cute. I really want it." And I had to tell him no, because that doll ended up being
being something a birthday gift that someone I had a crush on gave to me. And I didn't know how to explain the situation to my cousin, but he started crying. He curled up on the floor. He was just like begging me, like, please let me have this dinosaur. I really want it. And I had to tell him, no, I'm so sorry. I can't give it to you. And he went up to one of my parents and he asked him, like, hey, can you please tell her to give me the dinosaur? And my mother told him, no, you can't have that. Her boyfriend gave that to her. And I'm just like, oh, no. It wasn't even my boyfriend, but I didn't know how to explain this to my 7-year-old cousin. So definitely one of the most embarrassing stories that I could remember. I still have the dinosaur, by the way, so he ended up not winning.
Hard to break a kid's heart, huh?
Yeah, actually, Annabelle, that was my question. Did he eventually get the Yoshi stuffed doll? But he didn't. You held on to it.
He did not. I don't know. I still have the doll, and good memories were in it, so I couldn't let that go. No worry, I'm still my cousin's favorite. So we're so cool.
I was about to ask if you're still on speaking terms with your cousin. And now, Annabelle, you did bring up an interesting point, because today is Awkward Moments Day. If you'd like to have another awkward moment, you did mention a crush. Now is your opportunity on broadcast television. If you'd like to mention any names, we could certainly, we're all ears.
Well,
Annabelle, I'm not
people I know in person, but just to be relevant, the Snyder Cut version of the Justice League movie came out, and I do have a crush on Henry Cavill. He looks good in a Superman suit.
Henry, if you're listening, we have an Eagle News correspondent that would like to share Awkward Moments Day with you. Thank you, Annabelle, for that not at all awkward moment. Let's move on to Mylene. Mylene, please share with us awkward moments. What do you have to say?
I'm still laughing at Sister Annabelle's. Well, my awkward moment happened, I would say 2 years ago. And because I'm a parent volunteer at my children's school. And so one morning, I'm in the classroom, just doing my thing, walking around the classroom, helping out here and there. And one of the kids, they say out loud, Sarah's mom, why are you wearing 2 different shoes? And I looked down and I was like, I am wearing 2 different shoes, because I wear Crocs to the school, and the Crocs, they feel the same. They're comfortable. One was sling back, and the other one is the regular flats, and they felt the same. And they're both dark. One is black and one is dark blue. So, when you're in the garage and rushing to get out with your kids' backpack and all their accessories, you forget to look down and your feet are like, oh, they're 2 different shoes. It was so embarrassing. I just told her, you know what? I am just being as colorful as this class is, I'm a kid at heart sometimes too, I guess.
So Mylene, would you say, I've worn 2 different pairs of shoes to school before myself, but would you say that you owned the situation?
Oh, yeah. I rock my Crocs.
There you go. Well, Mylene, we really can't blame you, because you're dealing with small children. Well, they're shorter, so of course they have a better angle view of your shoes. So always got to be careful what we wear.
True, that is true.
Well, thank you, Eagle News correspondents. That's all the time we have for Awkward Moments today. Oh wait, my producer is telling me that it's my turn. Okay, I guess I can't.
Yeah, it's your turn. It's your turn.
All right. Well, there's a specific awkward moment that I cannot repeat. So I'm going to go to my backward awkward moment story. And it goes something like this. With the pandemic, there are a lot of stores were trying to accommodate its customers. And near the start of the pandemic, I happened to go with a family member to a pharmacy, not in Hollywood, but near Hollywood. And for my long-winded story, it's very important for you to understand that. A pharmacy, not in Hollywood, but near Hollywood. And as you know, when you're in Hollywood, or near Hollywood, you have to know the terms when it comes to the tinsel town, like lights, camera, action, so on and so forth. In any event, I was in line and I noticed that because of the pandemic, they did have sanitizing wipes for customers. Wonderful. Again, in a pharmacy near Hollywood, excuse me for repeating, but you'll understand why. Near Hollywood, what I did was I took one of the sanitizing wipes and I used it on myself. And I decided I needed more, so I took another, and I kept kind of accumulating it because it was wonderful. I was able to use it behind my ear, so on and so forth. There was no trash can, so unfortunately what I had to do was, because I'm a responsible individual, I did refuse to litter. I just stuffed it under my arms wherever I could just keep it with me. But what I noticed as I kept taking more and more sanitizing wipes, staff and other shoppers were glaring at me, and I couldn't understand why, again in this pharmacy near Hollywood. The name of the brand of the sanitizing wipes, because again, we're near Hollywood, was Only Take One. That's when I realized that wasn't the name of the brand in the pharmacy near Hollywood, because I thought it was like Lights, Camera, Action, Take Whatever. It was instructions to customers to limit themselves to just please take only one sanitizing wipe. And so, as you can imagine, I meekly, when I finally understood what I was reading, I meekly told my family member, I'll meet you in the car. And that is my awkward moments day. And what I've learned from it is to process first what I read before I take any action. Speaking of action, we want to recognize those important workers that have kept us safe and sound and healthy throughout this pandemic. As always, at the end of every broadcast, we don't forget to recognize the efforts of our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers by giving them a round of applause. Thank you for being our modern day heroes, and thank you to our Eagle News correspondents for joining us in this very lively roundtable discussion. We appreciate our correspondents and we appreciate the workers keeping us safe. That is today's Eagle News America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Alan Basoyahe. We live in interesting times.